What does Conan mean to me? Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. What do I think about him? He's a snake. Always been a snake, will always be a snake. Because he decided to move to his nice little white house in his nice little white neighborhood and with his nice little white friends, and he forgot what the struggle was. He forgot what being hungry is, man. He forgot what trying to make $1 out of 15 cents is all about. I called up, man. I called up. These are some stupid-ass questions, man. You want to know everything? You want to know my government name? You want to know all this other stuff, man? Man, listen. I called them up. I said, Conan, I want him out. Talk to me. And they said they're down with it, and they're ready to go. This time's come, man. It's over. It's done with. Bottom line is, man, Conan, you're playing checkers, man. I'm a king. I'm playing chess, homie. That's what I'm doing, partner. I'm trying to make a real move in this game. Yeah, I did it. And I got no problem with it. Because while you were sitting there talking about, oh, I found out, I already had a joker up my sleeve, man. Get out of here.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure on postwrestling.com, and I'm your host Martin Bushby, and joining me is Andrew Thompson. And Andrew, some cracking feedback from our debut show with Nate. I was reading quite a bit of that in the past couple of weeks. I think it went really well, that debut show we had with Nate Milton.
Yeah, it definitely went well, man. I'm real excited about the layout of this show, kind of the chemistry we got. I'm real amped for future episodes, and of course this episode we got going on right now. And shout out to Uncle Nate for coming on the podcast, man. We appreciate you, brother.
No, definitely. Well, just you and me this month. But I mean, you've had a busy couple of weeks. I was just listening to you on the Pro Wrestling Tees cast the other day. Really good show. That really enjoyed it. But I thought it really went in depth on sort of like, you know, you're starting out and your interviews and joining post wrestling and that stuff that I didn't know before. So yeah, really good interview with Scrump and the guys.
Yeah, I appreciate them having me on. Of course, like that was a good time. Like honestly, I wasn't expecting to like get like that deep into everything. Like I was expecting like just like, you know, us talking about some wrestling, maybe like some, you know, Netflix shows and stuff like that, but we got like into like a whole plethora of different topics, like of course like racial injustices and just like everything. So like that was a real fun podcast to do.
Do you feel, and I used to do quite a lot of wrestling interviews back in the day. We're talking sort of like 5 or 6
hold on,
years
wait, time out, Marty, because I saw one of your tweets. And I saw you interview Okada, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, I never knew about this. Like, when was this? And then I started looking at your channel. I'm seeing interviews with Dakota Kai, Aleister Black. I'm like, okay, Mark Bushby was ahead of the game, man. I was like, okay, look at this brother right here. I couldn't believe it, man. But no, that's cool, man. I didn't know that you were doing like you had some like really, really good interviews. And then I think the cool part, like some of the stuff I saw on your channel was like, it was like with people that are like really high profile right now, and you caught them like on their rise. Yeah. And I think that besides Okada, of course, but like still, you know, saying it, but besides him, but like I think like it's cool that you had Dakota Kai and Aleister Black, as I mentioned, and like you kind of caught them when they were on the uprise, and then to see where they are now on national television, you know, I think that's like real cool, man.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of Aleister Black when he was Tommy End on the Indies and that. So yeah, he was a really interesting guy, and he obviously still is, isn't he? So he was a great interview. But I mean, you've been no slouch yourself these past couple of weeks. You've been doing quite a few interviews, haven't you, over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been cool to finally get back on the interview grind, man. I wasn't able to line some stuff up for a couple of weeks, but then I always had these like little periods, like when there's like these little interview slumps, and then I'm like somehow able to like just get like a string of them. But like I wanted to ask you, like, because I know I know initially as far as NXT UK goes, I was like I know people weren't so like receptive to it. So I wanted to ask you, I was like, so what was your thoughts when you when you first saw? Because I know Aleister Black, I think his first appearance in WWE was at the NXT UK, the WWE United Kingdom Championship tournament.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask you, like if you can recall any thoughts that you had, like what were you thinking, like when you first saw him turn up in WWE? Primarily what was going to be NXT UK, but it wasn't officially NXT UK at the time.
Yeah, I remember that whole first tournament, and then the second one. I think the audio is still available. Maybe it might have been that that might have been from the live audio wrestling days, but me and Benno were quite hyped for those first two tournaments. Yeah, we were quite excited about them, and then that soon dissipated when we realised, what was really going on. Yeah, but I think we were quite excited for those first two tournaments, especially seeing the likes of like Alistair Black and I think Pac Neville as he was then. I think he was on like one of the first few shows as well. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how we've soured on our own brand in the since that one. Especially Benno. I don't know if anyone heard the last BWE, but yeah, he wasn't happy that NXT UK came back. But that's the story for another one. But I mean, before we get into the wrestling side of things, obviously we're in two different parts of the world, aren't we? And over here in the UK, we've just had a bunch of new restrictions put in place for a variety of areas. I mean, where I live, we can still go out to bars and shops, etc., but you can't mix indoors with other people other than people that are in your household. I was going to ask you, Andrew, where are you at in terms of like restrictions and what you can and can't do in terms of like what you can and can't do where you live in America?
I think it's been like pretty much like the same for the most part as far as like the restrictions and the precautions and stuff like that for the past. I would say it's been the same for like the past 2 months or so. Like, of course, you still got your select few that's out here still in these large group parties and stuff like that. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, people, like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to be like, all up in people's business. But I mean, at the same time, like, people going to do what they do. Like, you can't control that. But like, I don't think it's smart at all because I don't think people are legit taking this serious. And I think that's just a product of people not taking something seriously until it happens to them or somebody close to them. You know what I'm saying? Like until it hits home, then I think that's when people start like really taking it seriously. So I mean, at the end of the day, people gonna do what they do. But it's pretty much the same thing as far as here in America goes. I think everybody is honestly just waiting for election day because that's about to be that's about to be a date, Martin. That's about to be a date.
Yeah. For the whole world, I think everyone's looking in that, and the whole world's looking on what's going to happen with that. But yeah, it all looked like it wasn't going to go Trump's way last time, didn't it? But obviously that those polls always fool everyone, don't they?
Man, look. I don't think it. Like I think I like genuinely, just to get on the topic for a little bit. I think if Biden wins, I think that we're going to see like just a crazy surge of heightened racism to the level that we probably haven't seen like in a while. Like, and it's already terrible out here as far as it just speaking about racism. But I think just the people who blindly support Trump, I think is the way to put it, and their beliefs about people of color and just the way the world should work, that is incited by his words and what he promotes. I think if he gets voted out of office, I think that's going to incite them to feel the need to proceed how they will as far as taking action, I guess. Because I mean, I've even seen like a couple of videos of like some of these redneck dudes, Southern pride dudes who, they making these threats, and not even vague threats, like just saying they calling for a war if he gets voted out of office and all this, chitter chatter and stuff like that. But yeah, man, now I ain't mean to get all into that, for the wrestling podcast, but still, it needed to be said, man. So.
No, completely. Yeah, it needs to be said, mate. And it's not just in America, I feel like this sort of like, this has sort of happened a bit more over the world. You've seen sort of like smatterings of it, like it sort of maybe started in America and now it seems to be drifting more sort of like around the world as well. So yeah, it's scary times we're living in, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. But I hope people went out and voted. I'm not saying that like that like simply changes everything, but at least go out and cast your vote and stuff like that, because another 4 years old boy, man, I don't know. I don't know. I can't.
I mean, yeah, we definitely don't want that, on this show, that's for certain. But I was going to ask you, because obviously we've been talking about sort of like restrictions and like restrictions in various areas around the world. But I mean, just to say that this is the show we're recording a week before it drops on the BWE feed, and we had a bunch of wrestling shows drop from the collective this past weekend. I mean, did you get a chance to check out any of those? It's the shows they usually have over WrestleMania weekend, isn't it? And they sort of decided to do them this year, even not leaving until next year. But it's not something that I really managed to check out because I was really busy this weekend. But did you get a chance to check out any of those shows that are happening over in America?
I think I got to see 3. Yeah, I think I got to see 3 shows. I watched For the Culture. I watched Spring Break, and I watched I caught like the tail end of Bloodsport, just to see the Moxley Chris Dickinson match. And yeah, of course I think like every probably the shows that I saw, at least I think every single last one was like really solid, and I had some really great matchups on the show, like especially Spring Break. The Spring Break did run kind of long, but I think it was a good show top to bottom, like especially the Leo Rush ACH match that happened on that show. Like I think like the significance of that match like was like really like eye opening in a way, like just seeing like how these two dudes, these two black men specifically, like both were in WWE and kind of had like similar situations in terms of fallout. You know what I mean? Especially with ACH, with the with the racist T-shirt situation, the blatantly racist T-shirt situation, and then you had Leo Rush, who kind of went through his own trials and tribulations in WWE as far as like basically just being misunderstood, and him kind of
he was even talking about quitting at one point as well, quitting wrestling completely, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was talking about quitting. But I'm glad he's back, man. I honestly, like when he said he was quit, like just in general, like when I hear wrestlers say they about to quit or they about to retire, I don't ever believe it. But just in his sense and for his specific situation, like I always felt like it was just a matter of him feeling kind of outcasted and kind of had that passion for wrestling taken away from him in a way. So like I feel like that was just his response to like feeling like that. You know what I'm saying? And ACH did the same thing until he came back on the indies and slowly but surely found that love again for professional wrestling. So yeah, it was cool to see them back. The Lee Moriarty, Jonathan Gresham match was really good. I think they kind of like set like a different pace for like what the rest of the collective weekend was. So not the rest of the weekend, but let's say the rest of the spring break shows were. The rest of the shows that I saw, at least, like they kind of had like a different pace and a like a different style to that match. It was like more mat based, more technical wrestling style type of match. So I really enjoyed the interaction. And then of course for the culture, just the overall significance of that show, just so many talented black performers on one card, and then it just continues to shows like, and it kind of goes without saying that these are some people that can be spotlighted pieces on your show, key pieces on your show, headliners on your show. Like, so, it's just crazy that some of them are still unsigned, but all that gonna come in time, and then if it doesn't come, I'm pretty sure they're gonna go out and take it. So yeah, it was cool to see the overall weekend. And then I know you probably saw some of the clips about the Moxley Dickinson match at Bloodsport. I was gonna ask you, like, as far as Moxley, because there was a wrestler who did come out and say that he tested positive for COVID coming out of the collective weekend. I think it was Dan the Dad, but there were a couple of others who were also at the collective who tested negative coming out of the weekend. So hopefully those results stay the same as they continue to get tested, as they say. So like I think that's I was going to ask you, like, so like as far as Moxley being the AEW World Champion, of course, and he obviously at the time we recorded this, he did defend the title against Lance Archer on Dynamite. Like, I was going to ask you, like, what are your thoughts about Moxley being like given the freedom while being the company's world champion to go perform at the collective over the weekend, especially during these times?
I think knowing Moxley, he's like, that's how he's going to want it, isn't he? He wasn't coming into AEW to be treated like he was in WWF, and you can tell he really likes doing it. I think he was in the rafters at one of the sort of like first Bloodsport shows he did, and I think people were saying that they were stood around him, and he was like, yeah, I've got to do this 1 year sort of thing. So yeah, you can tell that he would be doing that no matter what anybody was telling him at AEW, because I imagine he's probably got that freedom where he can sort of like do these indie dates and maybe certain New Japan shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to be in the situation where he's being told too much to what to do again, is he? So I suppose perhaps he had a bit of freedom written into his contract. Who knows? But those collective shows weren't the only things happening stateside. Obviously, talked a bit NBA on the last show, and obviously, I don't think he was in any doubt, was it? Lakers on winning the championship for the first time in a few years. What were your thoughts on the finals? I mean, I watched a few of the games. Obviously, they're on at daft o'clock in the morning over here in the UK, like especially the ones that are in California. They're on at like 2 or 3 a.m. And, you know, when I'm working, I ain't got a chance to stay up for them. But, I mean, despite, you know, some valiant efforts from Jimmy Butler and the variety of industries the Miami team had, I mean, it was just a straight sweep for the Lakers apart from those 2 games, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, it did seem like the like initially, like when the series first started, it just seemed like the Miami was just overmatched. Like they just couldn't keep up with, first of all, the scoring power that the Lakers had, but like towards like those 2 games that he won, you could like honestly, bro, it was Jimmy Butler, to be honest with you. Like he just got fight. Like that dude ain't scared of nothing. Like he was ready. You could tell he wanted it. He wanted to win. He wanted to beat LA. And like I think it was cool to see that fight from Jimmy Butler. But over, like I'm honestly, bro, I'm glad to see LeBron get another championship. Like I think a lot of people really like absurdly try to discredit LeBron for all that he's done in basketball. Like just thinking about, like I know a lot of people say like he switched teams and stuff like that, but I'm like, LeBron literally like takes any coach that is given to him and goes and wins. You know what I'm saying? Like most people like tend to put the blame on the coach when things go weary. You know what I mean? He kind of take whatever coach he's given, like David Blatt, and goes to a championship. You know what I'm saying? Multiple years.
Yeah.
So LeBron is the man, bro. Like, and then on top of that, the stuff that he does for, you know, the black community outside of, off the court, like opening up his own school and providing free education for kids. And I think one of the most underrated thing about that school that he has up in Ohio is that, like, if the kids graduate from that from 8th grade or I think it goes to 12th grade, like if they graduate, they get a free ride to Akron University in Ohio. I think that's what it is. Like, that's crazy. Like you basically giving these kids an incentive to graduate. Like, you graduate, hey, you get a free ride to like one of the top colleges.
Yeah, definitely. I think lots of people have benefited from that LeBron program, haven't they? Where they've managed to pay for a lot of people to go to university and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a lot of times gets overlooked by people. And God, yeah, I think loyalty in sports, you know, I think that died out years ago. You know,
years ago,
for teams,
bro.
Yeah, because I mean, even over here in like the soccer league, you know, players move around teams all the time. So I think, yeah.
I wanted to ask you. So I had saw a clip, right, of I think it was some it was either some football analyst, but they were talking about I think one of them had talked. He called Tony Khan a clown or something like that.
Oh yeah, Jamie Carragher. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that about? Because I saw all I saw was Tony Khan tweeted something about Fulham. And then they were like grilling his ass like on the show.
Yeah, he obviously is the sporting director or owner of Fulham Football Club in the UK, and they'd have an absolute nightmare of a start to the season. I think Tony Khan tweeted something like apologising for it and all this, and it was just really embarrassing to his manager and things like that. So yeah, Jamie Carragher I think they removed the clip, but on the Sky Sports, which is a big sports network over here, absolutely grilled him and said like what an embarrassment and everything he was. So yeah. Yeah, not a great look for Tony Khan there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, we're not actually going that far back in time on this episode. We're only going back 2 years to 2018.
A lot happened, Martin.
Yeah.
A lot happened.
Well, I know that's what we're going to get into, because obviously we're going to be talking about Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 16. And it is funny, even though we're talking, 2 years ago, a lot's changed in the wrestling landscape, especially in North America since then. I mean, before we get into the show, though, I wanted to ask you about TNA/Impact Wrestling. I mean, they don't always have the best reputation with fans, but I mean, Have you been a fan of TNA Impact for a number of years, Andrew?
I've always kind of like fell in and out with Impact. Like, of course, like I first discovered them like in 2003, and then I've always been a fan of like it was more so of the talent that they had on the roster. Like, you know, of course, like throughout the years, they had the Chris Sabins and the Abysses, and like, you know, I was like one guy I was always interested in was James Mitchell, the manager. I don't know why, he was just weird as hell, and I always liked that, like how he got paired with Abyss, and of course, you know, you got your AJ Styleses and, you know, Christopher Daniels and stuff like that. So I always like, you know, really enjoyed the talent roster that Impact had and the matches they were able to put on. And then like I think, you know, they had a really, really bad down point, you know, when they brought in that man who shall not be named. I think you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. I ain't saying his name. But but yeah, I think like around that era, that's like some real bad business by Impact, like just overall from top to bottom. And like I think they really got it together once Scott D'Amore and Don Callis came in. Like I genuinely don't think they get enough credit for how they like legit turned Impact around and how they've handled certain situations. You know, going into the I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk about it, you know, when we get into the matches. But the Tessa Blanchard situation, the Joey Ryan situation, you know, how they handled those, and, you know, getting them both out of there and ending those relationships. So, I mean, like, well, now, the Tessa Blanchard situation took a minute.
Yeah.
So, you know, but
a bit longer than a minute.
Yeah. I had to think about that for a minute, but, yeah. But, yeah, I think overall, like, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis, like, they've done, like, a really, really good job, like, turning the ship around and, like, getting, like, more positive feedback than negative on Impact. They had some rough bumps, but I think, you know, they did a good job overall.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you. I dip in and out. I mean, I was a big fan when it was on the wrestling channel over here in the UK, but that was years ago. We're talking about those sort of like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Chris Daniels, when they kept having variety of matches with each other. And then I dipped back in like sort of like 2005, 2006 for those sort of like LAX tag matches. I used to do a bunch of multi-man matches with them, and then obviously the stuff they've been doing recently. But I mean, well, I'd be remiss of us not to talk about, as of recording the show last night, Monty Brown back in wrestling on AEW. That was incredible to wake up to this morning, seeing the video of good old Monty back in wrestling.
Man, I'm telling you, Monty did not age at all. No. That man look exactly the same. It's crazy, man. It's good seeing him. I don't think he like, you know, I don't think he gonna make no appearances or anything, but I think that, you know, I think there's a lot of people in the business that he's cool with, like that, you know, of course, seeing Lance Archer get the, you know, being able to reach to him and, you know, being able to get that video from Monty. But it's always good seeing him, man. Like he's like really one of those dudes who I think a lot of people would agree that said that he should have done way more in his career than what he did. Like I definitely think he should have been a world champion in TNA. I think WWE could have did more with him. He was Marcus Corvon at WWE, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think WWE could have did more with him. But yeah, like just going back to Impact real quick, I kind of want to ask you this, Martin. So Scott D'Amore, he recently said on a media call or one of those press pass things that Impact does, he said that before the pandemic happened, Impact was planning on heading over to the UK for a tour. Just with the current roster that they have now, do you think them coming over, like, do you think that would have been something that you would have been interested in going to see live, or like not really?
No, well, it's interesting with the Impact's sort of like relationship with the UK, because I mean, even when they were in their, they weren't doing a great deal in America, they'd come over here and still like do pretty decent business in arenas, even up to the point when it was what was that
group
that was like Loki and Samoa Joe and MVP and all them guys, and then
the Beat Down Clan.
Yeah, even when it was those guys, I knew they weren't doing great business in America, but they came over here with those guys, and they still did pretty good business in arenas. But I think the last time they came over, they like did it as part of some wrestling convention. I know Benno went to it, yeah, and I think he said it was pretty decent. But I think at that level, sort of like the smaller venues, similar to what they're doing nowadays, I think I'd be quite interested. It all depends on ticket prices with me these days. I'm like, yeah, I ain't paying that much for that. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what sort of package they'd put together these days. 'Cause obviously, they're not going to be doing the arenas in 2020, 2021, but it will be interesting to see them sort of like in the smaller venues, especially with the roster they've got these days.
Yeah, I think Impact really does have a solid roster. You know, I think like even with, you know, some of their talents moving on, I still think they were able to like regroup and like keep filling in the pieces a little bit. Like honestly, I think I think Ring of Honor and Impact have always been like a kind of similar situations, like where they breed, not breed, but like they really give a home to some of these talents and able to grow their star power to the point where they can go, you know, sign off with a bigger company and stuff like that. So I think Impact has done like a, you know, Impact should get they just do, man. You know, they are all right.
I think that's the thing with them, haven't they? The fans have been sort of like had so many false starts and false promises with them. Now, I suppose it's hard to bring people back on board now, even though a lot of people are talking about like Impact being a good show this year. But I suppose some people like have had so many false starts with Impact TNA as a brand, you know, they don't quite believe it. 'Cause I mean, a bit of background before we get into this show, but the year before, in 2017 was the biggest mess. I mean, Anthem Sports had bought a majority stake in the company, and then we had all the stuff with Billy Corgan, the cancelled brand change with GFW, and then Jeff Jarrett suing them, which is still ongoing. I mean, Jeff, he gets in everywhere, doesn't he? But I mean, even most of the main event talent had left, such as Drew Galloway and the Hardys. I mean, they always say that TNA Impact has more lives than a cat, but it really looked like it was all going under in 2017, I thought.
Yeah, I remember it was even some interviews. I think it was either talent interviews or exec interviews where they, you know, they said that they legit thought, you know, that was, you know, that was probably the end. But like, and then I don't think it helped that Impact, they kept switching networks, bro. They switched networks like 4 times, like in the past, like throughout that 2016 to like 2019 maybe period. Like they switched networks like 3 times. I know they were on Pop, and then they went to they went to some unknown channel, bro. It was like a fishing channel or something. It was terrible, bro.
Pursuit channel.
Pursuit channel, bro. Like, and then they was on another network, and then now they on Access, and you know that like I mean I don't think there's nothing wrong with Access, but like I can't find the shit. So like I'm like,
what about the other channels? What about the fishing channel and Pop TV and all that? Are they widely available in America?
Yeah. Look, let me see. About to check right now. But okay, so Pop TV is available. I don't know about that fishing channel, but yeah, like you know, I don't think that helps either, man. Like I honestly, man, I feel like Impact they have like they've had, I should say, bad luck with like the TV situation and getting more eyes on the product. But I also think one thing that they really took to their benefit was streaming their shows on Twitch. Like I think that was probably like one of the smartest moves they could have made, because anybody can access Twitch, and then you could just watch the shows on there. You don't have to have access. You can watch the show live, you know, as it airs on Access, but on Twitch. And I think that was like a really, really smart power play to you know, to get more eyes on their product.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously moving into 2018, and obviously just noted earlier, fan loyalty was an all-time low with the company, but there was light on the horizon, weren't they? I mean, you noted earlier, Don Callis and Scott D'Amore were made the executive vice presidents, and then they had some exciting new debuts with the likes of the Lucha Brothers, and then obviously going on Twitch to stream events, and then I seem to remember around this point they started getting better reviews from fans and sort of like wrestling sites, you know, thanks to the sort of like LAX v Lucha Bros matches and things like that. I mean, so going into this event, Impact hadn't been looking as good in years, so it was it was quite an interesting time period for him. And also, I think the landscape in North American wrestling was very different now because of it, it's very different to how it was 2 years ago. I mean, at this point, we were a few months out from All In, which would happen in September, and AEW as a proper company wouldn't be announced until early 2019, and the Impact roster is quite different now than the one we'd see on this show. I mean, even Kenny Omega in the Bucks. We're still with New Japan. I mean, WWE hadn't quite signed every available name to NXT just yet, and it was a different landscape pre-AEW, I think, Andrew, in 2018.
You know, I was about to say WWE, they were definitely making the play for the Bucks and Kenny. They were definitely throwing out those feelers. Cause I think that's pretty much open that, they were offering them or looking to offer them a deal. Like, I think, what was that, Mark? That was 2019 when Omega, before Wrestle Kingdom, before the Tanahashi match, he came out and did that interview with Tokyo Sports and said that he was a free agent. And I think
I remember that, yeah.
And I think that was when a lot of people were like, well, of course he's dropping IWGP heavyweight title, first of all. So that kind of ruined the main event. I think like that was probably like one of the big things. Cause like, I think people were, cause I know AEW, they announced on New Year's Day of 2019. And then everybody kind of knew that WWE was going to try to make a run for Omega. And I don't think he announced anything until like, I think maybe a month or so after that whole deal. And then that's when, of course he went to AEW, but it's crazy. Like getting back to the point what you said, I kind of went off into the tangent just now, but like getting back to what you just said, it's crazy looking at this roster, man. Like, John Morrison, Phoenix, Taiji Shimori, Ali, Eddie Edwards, Tommy Dreamer, Brian Cage, Matt Sydal, LAX, Eddie Kingston. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy looking at this roster now, seeing what some of these people are.
Yeah, because I mean, just to get into the event, and it was held on the 22nd of July at the Rebel Complex in Toronto. Venue looked pretty good, I thought. I mean, full crowd. Not sure what the numbers were. I don't think they were ever officially released, but this crowd was hot all night, weren't they? I mean, pretty decent looking venue here, I thought.
Yeah, it was a solid crowd, man. I kind of like this like the stage setup, like when the fans are like not below the stage, but like they're not eye level with the stage. Like the stage is always above them. Like I always like that. It's like a cool setup because it makes them like they reaching up all the time, like to get high fives and stuff. I don't know, but I like the little production stuff like that. But I also like the way they shot it, like on the wide shot for the matches. Like it was just like one big glimpse at the venue, so you can see everything and you can see like the stage, and like it was just cool as hell the way they shot it. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the way they had to, since the venue was kind of like packed in a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, using your hard cam is something that a lot of indies need to learn from. No one wants to see all these smeared camera lenses and stuff. So yeah, I mean, hats off to Impact for relying on their hard cam here. But I mean, great intro here from the late great Barry Scott, I thought. Obviously,
yeah,
he's
man,
iconic with TNA with that voiceover, isn't he?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, Barry Scott, he passed away. What was that, last month?
Yeah, it was earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was last month or so. And he passed away. So, of course, condolences to, his loved ones. But Barry Scott was crazy good on these, man, like these intros and stuff like that. I see why Impact, had him back and, throughout the years and kept bringing him back to do these spots.
And on commentary, we've got Josh Matthews and Don Callis. Pretty good pair, I think. They work well together. Josh Matthews, obviously, out of the sort of like WWE school, and then Don Callis was more sort of like relaxed and to the point. But I thought they worked well as a pair of commentary here.
Let me ask you this, man. Do you think Don Callis gets credit for being a good commentator? Because I really think he is like a really, really good commentator, especially when he was working with Kevin Kelly in New Japan. Like, I do you think Don Callis ever like got the credit that that he should get for being as good a commentator as he is?
No, yeah, I think he got some flack, didn't he, for maybe putting himself over a bit too much. But that's him with the heel commentary. We used to get that from Jesse Ventura and maybe sometimes Bobby the Brain Heenan. But yeah, I think he's done a cracking job in New Japan and Impact. And yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he does get the sort of like props he deserves for being a quality commentator.
Like I was going to add, like with that, for him to be able to maintain some resemblance or some feeling of excitement going into that, he knows the finish. You know what I'm saying? Like because he's booking the show, like so he knows what's going to happen. So I'm pretty sure that's not something that I mean, I'm pretty sure it can take away like a bit of excitement, but like he managed to like keep through for this show specifically, was like able to keep the intensity up and like kind of play up of the like the fact that he didn't know what was going to happen. And I think that's that's a real like grade A skill set for a commentator to have, especially if they know the finish to a match or they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know a few commentators have said that they don't want to know the finishers, especially people like JR and stuff. So it comes as a surprise to them. What's also surprising is this is the first time I've watched this show. I'd never watched it at the time, and I was kind of one of them TNA fans that were like, "Oh no, I'm done with them for good." So even though the likes of Benno and everyone were telling me they were good shows. But all the storylines leading into them, I mean, lots of video packages leading into every match. I mean, we'll go through each one as we talk about each match. But yeah, they've done a really good job at building up each match here. Maybe not apart from the opener, but every other match I thought had a good story behind it.
Yeah, Impact, they did a good job on the lead up to this show to make sure that, the storylines kind of had a payoff per se. I mean, I ain't saying all of them was good because it's a couple duds in here, but it happens. But I think they did a good job as far as the video, as far as the video package and stuff goes. Martin, are you one of those video package guys, like you love the intros and stuff like that? Because I'm one of those people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if it's done really well. I mean, some of the, we'll get into it later, but one of the matches had me howling with laughter at the video package, but we'll get into that one later. But yeah, I'm a big fan of sort of like a really well done video package.
Martin, do you remember around this time, like when there were like these little rumblings, that Don Callis was going to try to get Chris Jericho to come to Impact? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, and I also was on Jericho's podcast as well. I mean, we can get into it in the first match as well with Ishimori's involvement, but it seemed to be that Don Callis was expecting some kind of like New Japan working relationship, and then he was also making out like Jericho was going to come in because they were friends from back in the day, weren't they?
Yeah, see, Don Callis was the one that set up the Omega Jericho match. Like he the one that got that put in motion. So I think that's where it kind of stemmed from, and of course Don Callis, he not gonna come on Twitter and be like and shoot it down, like he gonna let that sit out there just for the curiosity of it, you know what I mean? So like let me ask you this hypothetically, right? Do you think it would have hurt Chris Jericho's legacy had he went to Impact and did anything with them?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of think they're still, compared to New Japan, and then AEW was the new big thing on the street, wasn't it? It's still, and especially in Jericho's head, it might have seemed like sort of like a step back for him.
Yeah, no, I don't think Chris Jericho will ever come out and say that because he cool with Don Callis, but I definitely think that was his mindset because I know we talked about it off air. This was the year that he wrestled Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
That year, and then I think you remember. What was it? A couple weeks after that, he was on WWE. He made an appearance at the on the Raw show, and he did the cameo backstage with Elias.
Oh yeah, and wasn't he supposed to be on one of the Saudi? Was it the Saudi shows as well? If memory serves correctly, they fetched him back for that as well.
But no, he was. I think he was. That was April of 2018, right? The Greatest Royal Rumble. He did. He was in the 50-man Royal Rumble. I think he was number 50 and got probably like one of the biggest pops on the show.
Saying something because there were no pops on that show, but wasn't he supposed to come in and have a big match with Undertaker or something? And then after the New Japan stuff, which apparently he cleared with Vince, and then all of a sudden he was reduced down to the 50-man Rumble. Yeah,
so that was a weird year. Like now that you mentioned, I forgot all about that. But yeah, Jericho worked the Omega match. He made the appearance on WWE. That was like, what was that, like 2 weeks after Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah, that
was around it. And then I know he was supposed to do something else on that Raw show, but they just reduced him to a backstage segment. And then he came back and he did the Greatest Royal Rumble, or maybe that was 2017. I really can't call it WWE Greatest Royal Rumble. But he did that, and he was supposed to. Yeah, that was 2018. I just checked that was 2018. So that was the same year. And then he was supposed to wrestle the Undertaker on that show in a casket match, but they swapped him out for Rusev in Native English. So and then he went back to New Japan, I think, and then he faced who did he face at Dominion that year? Did he wear Evil?
It was either Evil or Naito, wasn't it? I think. Yeah. Or Naito was maybe at Wrestle Kingdom next year, but I think. Going back to Jericho in Impact, I think he wouldn't say so. And obviously, they even mentioned on commentary at one point during this show that Jericho was watching it at home or whatever. And obviously he'd used a lot of it, his friendship with Jericho. But yeah, I don't think he would have ever seriously thought about coming into the company. Maybe do another Fozzy gig. I think there was a Fozzy video on an Impact like a few years back. But yeah, he wouldn't do anything more than that. I don't think. It's see it as a step back. But I suppose moving away from Jericho and onto this first match, because there's a lot to unpack in this first match. It's Peter Williams against Johnny, Impact against Ishimori against Phoenix, and obviously Rich Swann was supposed to be in this one, but I think he'd got a concussion the week before for MLW, and so they fetched Peter Williams back in. I mean, Peter Williams doesn't get as much credit, I think, because obviously everyone's using his finisher now as a transition move on a lot of indie shows. But yeah, I remember at the time when he first come up through the indies and he'd do a lot of shows in the UK, and it was all leading around that big Canadian destroyer finisher, and I used to think he was always really exciting to watch, but he never sort of quite clicked for him outside of Impact. And then obviously we had Phoenix as part of the Lucha Underground relationship. Ishimori's the interesting one, though, because obviously he just debuted the Bone Soldier gimmick with New Japan, but I think he already had these dates with Impact, so obviously that's Don Callis coming in and, making sure he's fulfilling his dates here, I think. Yeah, because
Taiji Ishimori, he was doing some work with Impact before he debuted with New Japan, and when they're doing the Bone Soldier thing, he was already working with them. So I think I think that was just the case. He had already had these dates lined up, and he had to fulfill, those commitments. Because it wasn't before. What was Taiji Ishimori before he was in New Japan? Was he in Pro Wrestling Noah? Was that where he was at?
Noah. He was famously in Noah for years, and then I think he'd done a few spots in New Japan and things like that, Best of the Super Juniors and the like. But yeah, he had a lot of great matches in Noah, and I think they'd had a loose connection with Noah Impact maybe in 2017. Yeah, they did. And it stemmed from that, didn't it?
Yeah, because I know what was that last Bound for Glory? Then Marufuji. Then he wrestled. He wrestled. I can't remember who he wrestled. I think it was, I want to say Moose at the 2019 Bound for Glory. I can't remember, but I know he wrestled at that show. So I know they do have a relationship with Noah. But going back to Ishimori, Ishimori had a good little stretch here, man. I know he was in the Best of the Super Juniors that year. What, wasn't he, or was that the following year?
He was in this year as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he was in there, and of course he was revealed as the Bone Soldier. So yeah, I think Ishimori had a little, he had a good solid year right here, man. But dude, I'm telling you, Phoenix, I swear Phoenix could be one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. He really could. I don't even think Mike skills factors into anything with that as far as he goes. I think his athleticism and his creative moveset will literally take him to the top. And you can you can say the same thing about John Morrison for real. Especially what he's doing on WWE TV right now. I don't think he's doing really much of anything. A man over here getting squashed by Otis on a weekly basis. But I just think that this match specifically and of course his Impact title run, it just showed you how good of a wrestler Morrison is. If you just let him go out there and just do what he does, this whole match was just filled with good spots and just very talented wrestlers.
Oh, I mean, it was an opener, weren't it? It was as good of a stunt show as you're going to get. I thought Peter Williams was a good substitute for Rich Swann. And then, obviously you're going to get Chris moves from the likes of Phoenix and stuff. I mean, do you think Phoenix is slightly underutilized in AEW? Because we've all seen him have these spectacular matches on the indies. And then, what do you think they're bubble him in under for something else? Or do you think he's found his sort of place now in AEW?
You want to know what's crazy about that, Martin? I don't know if you saw, but Kenny Omega had did an interview, and he said that exactly what you just said. He feels like Pentagon and Phoenix are underrepresented in AEW. He's at first he said no. He said he didn't want to say underutilized, but I mean I think he kind of basically said that, but he said underrepresented because I guess he didn't want to say underutilized, but. Yeah, I think Pentagon and Phoenix, they're just miscast right now. I think they're doing some good stuff with Eddie Kingston, but I feel like Kingston is kind of shining out on his own. And I think the direction that it's going right now, it isn't officially announced, but I think everybody can kind of see the signs that it's going to be him versus Mox at Full Gear in the AEW World Title match, probably in a Street Fighter or I Quit match or something like that, something along those lines. But yeah, I think Pentagon and Phoenix, man, I feel like they could be doing so much more. But I know they're gonna be wrestling each other in that tournament that starts next week in AEW. So I think that's gonna be a real good match. But like I honestly do, like I think Phoenix should go over Pentagon in that match. Like I feel like there's more stretch room, more leg room with Phoenix, because like I think Pentagon kind of, and there's no knock on Pentagon, but I feel like he relies on the pageantries of his, yeah, exactly, that he relies on that a lot as far as his character goes. And I feel like Phoenix can just go out there and just like put on like a killer match, you know what I'm saying, like exactly what you need. And like honestly, bro, like I feel like of course Pac being stuck in the UK, I feel like that kind of really put a damper on the plans that AEW had for that Death Triangle group.
Yeah, I totally agree there. And I've always thought that Phoenix is a slightly better wrestler than Pentagon, but character's a lot more sort of domineering than Phoenix, isn't he? But Johnny Impact got the win following a Starship Pain on this, and like I noted before, this was sort of like a good stunt show, spot fest, everyone got the shit in, and then we had a package up next. We had the OGs with Kingston complaining about Conan handing the name over, and then Kingston was absolutely brilliant here, saying that they'll burn the name and piss all over the ashes of LAX. And I thought he's always so good as the mouthpiece. I mean, once the bell rings, maybe not so much. I mean, he's okay in brawls and things like that, but as a mouthpiece, he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely think Eddie Kingston is like he's always been like just a standout, and I know he like, as far as the UK scene goes, and you guys over there, I think he really endeared himself to the UK fan base, especially with some of the indies that he did over there, and just like from what you hear online, being so relatable, and just speaking to people, and not coming off as a big deal, even though he is, you know what I'm saying? Just like I think he really endeared himself to the UK fan base too, and like of course the US fan base as well. But yeah, Eddie Kingston, the man, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about the OGs v LAX when the match comes up, because up next we had Tessa Blanchard against Ali. And
man, let me just chime in. I ain't mean to cut you off, brother, but like let me just chime in here real quick. Like I like the match was cool, right? Yeah. But let's talk about the elephant, like because the match was all right. Look, ain't nobody. I ain't really care for the match, but the match was good. Okay, it was good, but like. Dude, like I think around this period of time, I think you'll agree with me, and I kind of want to get like your immediate reaction. Like I think everybody was kind of agreeing that Tessa Blanchard was probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, and probably the best female wrestler in the world at this time.
Yeah, and she'd only just signed. I think it was just for this match. She just signed a full-time contract with Impact.
Yeah, and like it's crazy because like all that got blown off by her, you know what I'm saying? Like had literally had the world in her hands, like legit, and she like threw that all away. Like, cause and the crazy thing is, like, I know you remember on the day before that Hard to Kill pay-per-view when she was supposed to win the title. I think it was Hard to Kill, and she tweeted out, she was like, "Oh, how come I'm not getting support from my fellow women and stuff like that?" And then everybody just blew her ass up right on the spot and called her out for the stuff that she's done to people. And then I think the thing that really put the nail in the coffin as far as like people liking her goes was when La Rosa, was when Addison K came out and said that she called La Rosa Negra the N-word in Japan. And then La Rosa came out and backed the situation and back what K said. So like I think that really did her in. But yeah, man, it's crazy because like dude, you can't wrong people your whole life or most of your life or most of your career or whatever it may be, whatever circumstance it is, and then think it's not going to come back, because it will. Like all the dirt that people do onto other people, as it seems on Tessa Blanchard, like all that stuff is going to come back. So like I just think it's like real crazy to see like the turnaround within the span of a year or so that happened as far as her career goes. Because like she was, I think everybody was legit praising Tessa Blanchard, and I was one of them. Yep. Praising her, saying like I thought she was like probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. And then come to find out, that she did all these things to other people, and she had these racial comments to say about La Rosa Negra and calling her out her name, and spitting on people and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like just all that disrespectful, childish stuff. But like it's crazy to me to see like how she was perceived here and then like how she's perceived now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I completely agree. I think they were all sort of like, saying, "Oh, she needs to be on a bigger platform," and
Yes.
why don't WWE sign, especially with the family name and things like that. And then obviously all that stuff came out, and then what's happening with her now? With like she didn't do some tapings in her house or something for some promos, and so like Impact have gotten rid of her, and it seems nobody else wants to touch her with a barge pole, do they? I mean, obviously on top of all the stuff you've said, it seems like she's just not well liked in the industry whatsoever.
Yeah, nah, 100% agree. I know she did the Warrior Wrestling show not too long ago, but they only did that so she could drop the title to Kylie Ray. Yeah, they only brought her back for that, and like she wasn't even on the poster, bro. Like they had her likeness on the poster, like they had like a silhouette of her, but Kylie Ray was the one that was like actually shown in the poster. So I think that kind of like let and of course Warrior Wrestling, they're not gonna come out and be like, like, oh, we don't want to associate with. I mean, I think people could kind of take a hint for what it is. But I mean, they promoted her as the diamond or something like that to keep it partial, I guess. But yeah, they only brought. I mean, it seems like they only brought her back to have her jump the title. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a risky thing trying to sign to the match. Like me personally, like I think once you cross that racial line, like, well, not even think, once you cross that racial line, for me, like you scrap for me. But like, I'm pretty sure there's other companies out there who wouldn't mind, taking her in. So, we gonna see. But like you said, it's for right now, it just seems like companies are like very hesitant because they not for real to be like completely real with you, Martin, and for those that's listening, like I don't even think it's more so of they legit care what she did. I think it's just more so they don't want that backlash, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think most wrestling promoters are happy to look the other way on anything, can't they? But in these times, especially with social media, nobody wants that backlash. How do you, before we move on to the next match, how do you feel about the way Impact handled that? Because it all came out that weekend, didn't it? And then she won the title on the Sunday. And how do you feel? Do you feel like they should have backtracked on it, or they were just like, well, we've got all these plans, we'll just start full steam ahead? Because it was all that weekend, all that stuff came out, and it was, and I don't know whether Impact handled it the best.
Yeah, I don't think they handled the best situation. Like they were in a very bad predicament because especially the timing of that situation, like it was literally the day before the pay-per-view, and then I don't remember they pulled her from the media scrums. Like a couple hours, the day before the pay-per-view, they pulled her from the media scrums as all that stuff came to the light. But yeah, Impact, they was in a situation like I feel like that was the long-term plan to have her win the world title, and then the day before the pay-per-view, she getting outed as a racist. You know what I mean? And as a bully and all that type of stuff. So, I think they were in a weird situation. I don't think they handled it well because they kind of got ignored. And then she did a post match promo. And me and Nate talked about this on the Hard to Kill post show that we did for Post, and we got into that whole deal, and like how she kind of like didn't address the situation that happened, but she kind of like addressed it in character. And like tried to play up the whole, like I can't remember like verbatim what she said, but it was like she was like really in character with it and like tried to like push it off to the side and say that basically she worked hard to where she is and all that bullshit right there. But it was just weird to see like overall just how this whole situation turned out and how Impact handled the situation. What did you think about like how they basically waited until it got like basically waited until they got really bad until they decided to take the title off her?
I think that whole wrestling mentality of we'll do full steam ahead and everyone will forget about it is gone now. I mean, everyone remembers this stuff and everyone will remind you about it and everyone will sort of like attack you on social media for sort of like continuing to book people like that. So I think that whole period of we'll just keep going with this and everyone will forget about it soon enough. And especially when it's something as strongly as this, people aren't going to forget about it in a hurry, are they?
Like I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, and you can even compare it to some of the stuff now. Like you got guys like Austin Theory and Velveteen Dream that were named and speaking out. You know what I mean? That's like constantly on television, and I think that's just a thing of like, people don't forget about stuff like that. Nobody forgets that stuff. Like, it just doesn't go away. Speaking Out wasn't even that long ago. That was like 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's just a similar situation as far as like the how things are handled and stuff like. And even you go far as back as Hulk Hogan and how WWE. I said his name. God damn it. But yeah, but you like said similar situation like that. How WWE like they kind of they reprimanded him for the backlash, and I don't think they reprimanded him for exactly what he said. You know what I'm saying? I think it was just more so of like, we got to react because it's bad. So we got to get him out of here. And then lo and behold, they brought him back and he's hosting WrestleMania and all this, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think just overall in professional wrestling, like things need to get handled swiftly. Like I know that's easy to say from a position where I'm not in that position to make that decision, but I think things need to get better as far as like making these quick decisions that are like just clear cut. Like they need to be made and they need to be let go. And then especially going back to the Tessa Blanchard situation, like how she kept releasing these statements and, you know, denying, you know, that she said the N-word when the person who she allegedly said it to came out and backed it. And she wasn't even the one that put that information out there. She just came out and backed it because she, you know, she wanted her story out there. So I mean, it was just it was a crazy situation, man. But Impact, when did they terminate her contract? What was that? That was over the summer, right?
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully it's you know, we won't see her in Impact again. But I mean, we moved on the show. We had an interview with Moose backstage. Obviously, Moose previous to this had been around ROH for a while and then signed with Impact. That was a decent promo for me. Andrew, I'm not that not really followed Moose's career that closely, but was he a memorable member of the NFL? Because he used to play for the Falcons, right?
Nah, I like you know how it is, man. Like it's kind of the same thing with like dudes like Baron Corbin. You know what I'm saying? Like they you know they have the NFL tagline to their name, but they didn't really like do like, you know, anything super crazy as far as the legal. Like they were either on the practice squad or, you know, they were on the team, but like they didn't do anything like, you know, they didn't make any like Pro Bowls or, you know, things like that. Like I think, you know, Impact, I think they have a, you know, well-known relationship with D'Angelo Williams that used to play for the Pittsburgh. I hope I didn't get his name wrong. But yeah, D'Angelo Williams that played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and played for the Carolina Panthers. Like he did some work with Impact and he teamed with Moose, I think, or he worked with Moose on Impact because they tried to play up the NFL background. But I don't think Moose did like anything, you know, crazy in the NFL. But he was in the NFL though.
Yeah, he did enough to get a picture that they kept showing you on this over and over again of him in his Falcons journey. Showed you, I think they showed you that about 10 times on this. But yeah, we'll get more into Moose later, sort of the main event, because match 3 we had Tommy Dreamer against Eddie Edwards, and I do remember listening about this and seeing clips of it, because obviously leading into this story, it was Eddie Edwards slowly going mad and insane through his feud with Sami Callihan, which all started with that really controversial baseball shot to the eye. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a big shitstorm at the time, weren't it? Of him slagging Callahan off and saying he was, you know, unsafe to work with, and then they obviously turned it into the angle with Eddie Edwards going insane at Sami Callihan, and which subsequently turned into this match with Tommy Dreamer. Yeah,
for sure. Like I remember that vividly when that whole story first came out about you know, Sammy. I think he hit the chair, and then the baseball bat just ricocheted off the chair and then hit Eddie in the eye like that. For real, bro. I think that could have been way worse than what actually happened. Of course, Eddie was able to make a full recovery, and he, you know, he's still with Impact to this day. And I think him and Sammy, you know, buried the hatchet, and, you know, everything all good now. But like, dude, I think that could have been so much worse than like what actually happened, and he got it bad.
Oh, yeah, he definitely did. And it's like you say, it could have been a lot worse. But I do remember they turned it into this angle with Eddie Edwards going mad. But just before we get into, I mean, this was usual plunder match. There was some decent stuff in it. I mean, I've got to be honest, I've never been the biggest Tommy Dreamer fan, even in ECW, and I really didn't need to be seeing him hodl out there in 2018. But I felt like the crowd kept this one afloat, though. I mean, they were red hot for everything all over the show, and then especially this one. I mean, you even had spots like Dreamer stealing a fan's ECW title and hitting Edwards with it, and
that was cool.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that was yeah. But yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because like I just noted there, I'm not the biggest Tommy Dreamer fan, especially sort of like past 1999. But yeah, I thought it was a decent little plunder match. Obviously, we had a lot better to come on down the line. I mean, Edwards won the match and even had his wife coming out to calm him down, and then Dreamer sort of handed over the kendo stick to Eddie, like a sort of passing of the hardcore torch. But what were your thoughts on this match?
People like blood. I think that's like mostly what it was. Like, people like seeing people do crazy stuff in the ring, so I think that was just a majority. What it was. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't remember the lighter fluid spot. I kind of got amped for that. I was like, oh, he about to put him through a flaming table, and I was ready for that, but they didn't do it. But it is what it is. But like the Impact, they love doing these storylines with Alicia Edwards, like when it seems like Eddie Edwards thinks she's like flirting with another man on the roster. Like, they did that recently with Ace Austin for like a little bit. Like, and I know they did it again when they thought, when Eddie thought she was messing with Tommy Dreamer or she was messing with Sami Callihan. I'm like, damn, they just be throwing Alicia Edwards into these random storylines. but yeah, man. Just for the match overall, like, I think it was a decent match. Like, I don't think it was anything, grandiose, but I think it was good for what it was, considering what they were working with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because up next was a match I was far more interested in. We had Matt Sydal against Brian Cage for the X Division title, and Sydal obviously got in a lot of trouble in Japan. Sort of lost his spot in New Japan, I think, the year before, and then seemed to be in the wilderness for a while. And then he came into Impact with this sort of like path to enlightenment character, and talking about the third eye, and I think
he got caught with some weed on him in a Japanese airport, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
what that what it was. I was like, cause I was wondering. I was like, oh yeah, I think he got caught. Yeah, cause I remember he talked about this doing a podcast. Yeah, he got caught with weed on him in a Japanese airport. But yeah, it was an airport in Japan. I hate saying that, Japanese airport, but like, yeah, airport in Japan. So yeah,
and that shit does not fly in Japan. Just ask Paul McCartney out of the Beatles. I think he got banned from there for a year or so. And so yeah, if Matt Sydal does it, yeah, then he's going to be getting banned from there. And yeah, he'd come into Impact, hadn't he? And I think we all understood that this enlightened character meant that he was engaging in some herbal remedies, I think, is the best way to put it. And I think Cage had been sort of like in and out of Impact. He'd made a few appearances. Obviously, both these guys are with AEW now. But I just wanted to get your thoughts, Andrew, on Cage. It's unlikely that he's going to be passing any wellness things in WWE. But, I mean, do you think he should be a bigger star than he is now? I know they're doing a lot more with him in AEW, but he always seems like he's been... because obviously he's a big guy who does all the flippy stuff and that, and he's got quite a lot of intensity around him. Do you think he should be further on in his career than he currently is?
Nah, man. I think Cage is exactly where he needs to be, or exactly where he should be. Like, I think he's doing some solid stuff with AEW, and he's like fitting really well with the team Taz and stuff like that. The only I think just the thing is, like, when he was in Impact, right? Cage was, like, when he had his world title running, of course, this X Division title, like, Cage is a great wrestler. Like, but the thing is, when he was in Impact, Cage is a big fish in a small pond. You know what I'm saying? And when he go to AEW, yeah, I mean, yeah, you a big fish, but now you in an ocean full of just talented wrestlers who, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no offense to him, but talented wrestlers who are better than you in the ring and are more popular. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and Cage is popular in his own right. And he's a great wrestler in his own right, but like, when you're surrounded around that, it kind of makes it hard to stand out, even though he does stand out with his look. But like, I think it's kind of like, I kind of related back to kind of Nick Aldis in a way. Like, I remember Nick Aldis did an interview recently when he was like, he could have went to AEW if the money was right, and I do believe him when he said that, but I think that's more of a positioning standpoint from him, because like, Nick Aldis is a big fish in a small pond as far as the NWA goes. Like, he's the man. as far as the National Wrestling Alliance. He represents the brand. He is the brand. You go to AEW and you compare Nick Aldis's in-ring work to a Phoenix or a Pentagon or Omega or a Page. Like, do you really think Nick Aldis is going to like really truly stand out in the national? I mean, in all elite wrestling if he would have went there? Like, I think he would do well, but I don't think he would be as big as a star as he is with the NWA. And I think that's just because he's a big fish in a not so big pond.
Yeah. And
I think it's kind of the same thing with Brian Cage.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. But I thought this match was pretty good. They obviously used this story, nice little story, Seidel using his speed to try and evade sort of like the bigger power moves of Cage, and then Cage won, which was one of the I think there was 2 title matches on title changes rather on this show, and a pretty enjoyable match I thought here.
Yeah, it was a good match. Wasn't there? Because it kind of foggy right now, but wasn't there a spot like where they tried to do some move and there was like some type of slip up or something like that with Cage and Seidel. Something happened along the
style press, and obviously that most recently happened, didn't it, on AEW TV? And obviously,
bro, that did happen on AEW. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jesus Christ, Matt Seidel got that.
Weeks ago, I think on his debut, weren't it, for AEW? And but because Seidel's always known as having sort of like the smoothest, most crispest looking shooting star press, and then obviously on this show there was a bit of a botch on it, and then obviously for his debut with AEW. But yeah, I've seen it a couple of times live, and yeah, it always looks amazing because he'd done a few things in the UK with Ospreay and the like, and had some cracking matches together in a best of 3 falls in Red Pro, and then once he'd sort of like gone into the wilderness after the whole New Japan situation, I don't think he's had some decent matches, but I don't think he's quite gone back to that level he was sort of like pre getting caught in an airport with some dope. Yeah,
no, I think honestly, bro, like, because I've heard some interviews that Seidel did, and I think he's kind of like just I can kind of harken it back to like RVD in a way, because RVD. RVD straight up comes out and says in these interviews that like that fire, that passion for wrestling, like that's gone. It's about the money now. You know what I'm saying? He's open with that. Like that's no, random thing. Like RVD has said this in plenty of interviews. Like it's about the money for him. And I don't think that's the thing about Seidel. I think Seidel loves professional wrestling, but I think it's more so like he's happy with what he's done in his career. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like less of that feeling that he has something to prove per se. So like, but I don't want to compare that to RVD because RVD just straight up say he don't give a damn no more. But so I think it's more so Seidel just feels like he's done a lot, he's accomplished a lot, and there's less of that need to go and seek out that approval or go and seek out that affirmation from everybody else.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a good point there. But on to match number 5, and we were talking about video packages earlier, and I mentioned one that made me howl with laughter, and it was this match, Su Yung against Madison Rayne. I mean, your mileage is going to vary on these sorts of matches depending on how much you enjoy the theatrics of Su Yung and her undead brides, but I was laughing my head off at this video package of Madison Rayne running around in what appeared to be a funeral parlor with little girls dressed up as Su Yung, and then seeing her own corpse in the coffin and stuff. And Andrew, you give me an opinion on this. Are you a fan of this sort of like theatrical style of wrestling with Su Yung and all this sort of like 1991 Undertaker type stuff?
No, I'm. What'd you just call it?
It's sort of like 1991, sort of like Undertaker, isn't it?
No, I'm not really a fan of like the undead realm and all that stuff. Like, I mean, it works for some people. Like some people like it, but I'm just not. Like, I couldn't get into it. Like I remember even back then when I was like sort of tuning in and out to Impact to keep up like with the storylines and stuff on the lead up to the show. I couldn't get into it. Like it just didn't. It didn't resonate with me. It just seemed like some random stuff. I think, and like, I kind of want to get your thoughts about this, man. Do you think like the whole, like any type of like paranormal, like ghostly characters are like kind of, done within professional wrestling just because of like, we just know too much about the individuals behind the character. Like we know they have families and you know what I'm saying? Like it's and they posting on Instagram and like all that stuff. You think it's kind of like those characters are kind of done? Like I think, like before you answered, I think I kind of just came to my head. Like I think the only one that's kind of left in a way is Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, and I think that's kind of more so. That's not even like a ghostly thing. I think that's just more so somebody who just lost their shit and like just went crazy. Like, and I think that's probably one of the last ones that's left as far as those type of characters that like can actually work.
Yeah, I don't know, because I found this year's WrestleMania with the AJ Styles and Undertaker, I found that absolutely hilarious. I think I found it more funny, and that's why I get some kind of enjoyment out of it. But yeah, as far as taking anything like this seriously, no, I don't take it seriously at all. I just see it as a comedy match in my mind when someone's getting brought out in a coffin and things like that. But I suppose Sue Young had a big run on the indies and stuff, didn't she? And then obviously she's very popular in Impact, so it must have a place with some fans. But I don't think with either me or you. And I thought they did a decent job with building sort of like Madison Rayne up as this sort of like, homegrown TNA star and stuff in the build up for this one. But obviously that didn't go very far because quite a short match. But it was there to make Sue Young look good, basically, wasn't it?
I was going to ask you, did Madison Rayne, did she work the Mae Young Classic that year, or was that 2019 that she worked? Because they didn't do a Mae Young Classic that year, so that was 2018, right?
Yeah,
she worked the Mae Young Classic.
She did, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She worked the Mae Young. Yeah, I mean that's cool. I like that. That's cool.
And now doesn't she work backstage for Impact?
Yeah, she's an agent and she's a commentator because Gail Kim was an agent. Well, she is an agent, but they promoted Gail Kim to talent relations with D'Lo Brown. So yeah, Madison Rayne got promoted as well.
Right. Okay. So moving on to the good stuff now. I mean, match 6, we've got the OGs via LAX.
Cinematic.
Yeah.
Cinematic.
Santana and Ortiz with Conan in their corner, and then Homicide and Hernandez with Eddie Kingston. And I remember this getting tons of praise at the time, and I remember loving Homicide and Hernandez in 2005. Those multi-man tags with the likes of AJ and Chris Daniels. Great story here, I thought. Eddie Kingston as a mouthpiece for the OGs, saying that they were there to finish LAX once and forever. And fantastic match. I mean, Santana and Ortiz are having a lot of good matches on Impact against the likes of Lucha Bros and things like that around this time. And great entrance from both teams, I thought. And I was going to ask you before, Conan's quite notorious for jumping in everyone's DMs these days, Andrew. Asking if you've been listening to his podcast. Have you had the honor of a Conan DM?
No, not yet, unfortunately. But I wanted to clear up something real quick because I said cinematic. Like I initially, like the thing that came to my mind when I thought about LAX versus the OGs was the cinematic backstage. I mean, not the cinematic street fight that they did. It was on an episode of Impact, I think, and I got that minute, and I just came to my mind. Like I watched the show earlier, and it was the match when the boards was off the ring, right?
Yeah.
So that was crazy, man. Like honestly, bro, this was like a really good match. Like I enjoyed this. I think they tore the house down as far as what they did. And it's crazy to me still seeing like Hernandez like flying around and stuff like that. Like, and especially considering like. I was gonna ask you like because I know you've seen more than me as far as professional wrestling goes, and like seeing like the majority of some of these dudes' careers, like specifically Homicide. Yeah, speaking about Homicide, like do you think Homicide has like gotten his just due in professional wrestling, like for what he's done? Like Homicide has been around for a long time. Like he's done a lot, like, and he's had success in a lot of places. Like, do you think Homicide has been able to get his just do people like recognize him for his contributions to professional wrestling?
No, I don't think they do at all. Because like you say, he was been around for a while, and then he had all this stuff in Ring of Honor, and then obviously his original run in LAX, and then he's making comebacks. He was on that Bloodsport show this past weekend as well, and I also think he's probably got a really good mind for wrestling as well, and he certainly did a lot in getting that tag team over it. I mean, it showed when Hernandez went single, how much he struggled with our Homicide there to be the workhorse of the match, and I thought he did a lot of the stuff in this match with keeping it all together, especially with Santana Ortiz, fairly young dudes, and then Hernandez, who's good for the sort of like big power impact moves, but as far as keeping the match together, I thought Homicide did a lot of that in this match.
Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. But like you mentioned it at the top of the show, like another guy who like really stands out within this whole feud was Eddie Kingston, And like it's kind of crazy, like hindsight being 2020, knowing what Eddie Kingston was kind of going through personally, because he's spoken about it now. Now that he signed with AEW, like he was, what wasn't in the best place financially. You know what I'm saying? Was kind of like just going from show to show and kind of, he said this, but like, he's like just paying his bills as he go, keeping everything, afloat with these shows that he was doing. It's just crazy, like knowing like the content that he was producing at the time and the work rate that he was going at the time, and like just knowing the personal battles that he was having. Like it just goes to show you, man, like you just never know what somebody is going through in life. Like you would think, you know what I'm saying? Like you would think this dude on TV, he working all these indie dates. Like you would think he, everything's all good.
Yep.
But it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I think that just goes to show you, man, like you just never ever know what anybody is going through in life. Like people could put on the biggest smile. They won't say a peep on social media, won't complain about a damn thing. You know what I'm saying? But they are like on in their own personal life, they got their own stuff going on, and it's some like hard stuff to deal with. So it's cool seeing like the story of Eddie Kingston, like, pan out throughout the years, and now he's signed with AEW, and like he's in a main event spot. So like I think it's like Eddie Kingston is like one of those like real cool, like real feel good stories, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And it is great to see all the hard work pay off for him, and he's hopefully got a pretty fat contract from AEW. Yeah. But yeah, I think this feud went on for quite a while, didn't it? I mean, you mentioned it there when they were running all over Toronto on an episode of Impact, like organising hits on each other and things like that. That got a bit wild, didn't it? But yeah, as far as this match went, it was tons of fun. I mean, your mileage might vary on these, and especially there seemed to be a lot of hardcore stuff on this show. But this was really good. I really enjoyed it. Lots of sort of like interesting moves. I always thought, and they've been continuing it in AEW as well, that Santana and Ortiz quite innovative in some of their offense. You might have seen a lot of these plunder matches before, especially things involving tables and ladders. But I always think they managed to sort of like make things look slightly different or change it up a bit. Or they've certainly got some interesting double team tag moves as well.
Yeah, so Santana and Ortiz, they definitely like one of the better duos out there. I like that. That's a team I think could be doing more in AEW, like along with Pentagon and Phoenix. I think they could be like, I like them with the inner circle. I do, but I think they could really stand out on their own. Like I feel like when Eddie Kingston came to AEW, I feel like the obvious thing that a lot of people thought was going to happen was you pair him with Santana and Ortiz and you let them run the joint. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what most people thought, and I think that's still going to come. But yeah, I think Santana and Ortiz could be, doing a lot more. I definitely think they could have been tag champions by now at least. But like I wanted to ask you, Mark, like as far as I want to get your thoughts about this. Like I don't know when it was. I think it was late. I think it was later this year, or it was sometime around. I think it was later this year, or sometime later that year, or sometime around early 2019 or something like that. When Santana and Ortiz left Impact. I was going to ask you, like, what do you think about the way that Impact sent Santana and Ortiz out? Because normally, as you see with most professional wrestling, like when the guy or when the team or the group of people are leaving a company, the normal thing to do is they put over, the people, and then they go out on a loss on their way out, and that's it. But what Impact did was they had Santana and Ortiz go over in their last match and gave them like a big celebration at the end, and everybody came out to the ring and hoisted them up and told them thank you for what they did for Impact. Like I think that was probably like one of the like really, really cool things that you could do for somebody who basically busted their ass for you for the past couple of years. Like I think that was like a really cool thing that Impact sent Santana and Ortiz on their way eventually to AEW.
No, I completely agree. Obviously, like with just desserts for them, weren't it? Really, they busted their asses for Impact. Trying to get them, especially with the new management takeover and things.
Yeah,
they were the highlights of a lot of the shows. Especially that's what got a lot of people talking about the tag matches that they were having. So yeah, I think and they'd done pretty much everything they could do in the company by that point, hadn't they? So yeah, I think. I think it was really deserved that they got sort of like a big pat on the back and a send off to hopefully be earning some better money in AEW.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about sort of that match being brutal. I mean, next up we had Pentagon Jr. against Sami Callihan, heavy mask match. Callihan's been a bit of a controversial figure for a variety of reasons, but I remember at the time this being talked about as maybe one of the top 10 matches of the year. I mean, this was absolutely brutal, and I imagine there were just as many people turned off by this as sort of like turned on for this. I mean, just those nails he fetched out and were just hammering in each other's end, and the crowd was so into this match, and just these two, the levels of intensity they showed, and just how, especially Callihan, willing to have those sort of like things baseball batted into his head, and he got a right gusher on the top of his head that was like absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, like I said, your mileage is going to vary on these hardcore matches, but I thought the intensity these two showed, and just I thought they worked so well together in this match.
This was for sure one of the best matches of 2018. Like, it's not even a question. I would say top 5, honestly. Like, you could throw that in there with some of the other matches that happened that year, other great matches that happened that year. Of course, Omega, Okada, Gargano and Almas from TakeOver Philly.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it was that NXT TakeOver that NXT TakeOver ladder match for the North American title. Like, it was so many great matches that happened that year, man. Like, you could literally throw that anywhere. But yeah, I definitely think this is one of the better matches that happened this year. Pentagon and Phoenix, Pentagon and Sami, they went out there and they beat the hell out of each other. And I always think it's like a cool visual when you see Pentagon bleeding because of his mask. Like, they always open that portion of his mask near his eye. And like, you could just like, it's just a cool visual, man. I'm pretty sure it don't feel good for him, but like it looked good on TV. So yeah, I agree with you, man. I think this is one of the better matches, and for sure the best match on this show.
And I think as well, especially with that white part of his mask, especially when you get the blood all over that and things like that. And I mean, he was never going to lose his mask, was he? In Impact.
Nah.
I think a Mexican wrestler's got more respect for themselves than that. So obviously hats off to Sami for having his head shaved and things like that. But this was absolutely brutal. Sort of reminded me of this sort of like Greg Valentine, Roddy Piper dog collar matches and things like that from the 80s. Really intense, two really good workers, like really going at it. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. I can see why a lot of people would have it in the sort of like top matches of the year. But I mean, just before we get into the main event, we had Toronto Blue Jays player Curtis Granderson came out, didn't he, for the main event? I think he'd just joined the Toronto. Yeah, he had just joined the Toronto Blue Jays at the time. Former Yankee, I think he played for Detroit as well, but out here to present the titles. I always remember Curtis Granderson was a good player to pick on up on MLB 2K11. He always, if you had a career mode or something like that, he'd always like go up and score you a lot of home runs and things like that. So that's my my one memory of Curtis Granderson. But it sort of gave the match, I think, a bit more sort of like that old school thing where you had a big sporting guy come out and present the title to the winner sort of thing.
Yeah, like, are you a fan of like these little celebrity spots, or do you not really care for them?
It depends what the celebrity is. I mean, I don't give two shits about any NASCAR drives. That means absolutely nothing to me. But I think it can work, especially if there's minimal involvement. I mean, obviously Tyson's the number one for that WrestleMania 14
Snoop Dogg.
Event. Yeah, Snoop Dogg coming in and things like that. But yeah, I didn't mind it for this because obviously, he's a hometown player and stuff like that, and he didn't get too involved in the match, I don't think. And I think it kind of adds a bit more to the main events when you do have someone who's actually genuinely famous come in and sort of like doing the title, like kind of like a big time boxing match or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you just said. I agree 100% on that.
And as far as the match goes, I mean, Austin Aries comes out with some dopey comments now and again on Twitter and things like that, and I know he's probably not that popular backstage at a lot of the promotions, but boy, I don't think
he getting booked no more, bro.
No,
I really
exactly.
don't. For real. Like he kind of did this to himself when you think about it, like legit. I got like a whole thing I wanted to talk to you about that too, as far as Austin Aries goes. But like as far as the match goes, when he did that brainbuster spot, was it on the outside? He did a brainbuster spot somewhere on the outside. Yeah, and Moose got a concussion.
Oh, really? Right?
Yeah, he had a concussion and he had vertigo from it. He had did they at Impact they did the live show, and then they did the couple weeks, like a month's worth or 2 months worth of tapings the next day, the next 2 days.
Right.
So missed Moose the tapings because he suffered a concussion from that brain buster, and then he had vertigo the very next day, so that just added on. So he wasn't even, I don't think he was factored into the tapings for real.
Yeah, because it was right on the floor, weren't it? Sort of like nailed him back on his head. Because I thought this was a good match.
And it was very short. So like, you know what I'm saying? He trying to bang Buster Moose. Moose like 6'6", 6'5", and Austin Aries like 5'7", 5'8". Like, I don't think that was that's like him trying to give like Moose like a tombstone. Like, is it
not the smartest move, really, is it, for a big dude like Moose? And I think there'd been some big sort of like spots in this match. Something else I noticed was at the end, sort of like, you know, they've both been bumping like crazy for each other. And then sort of like just as the finish came, with Aries picking up the win, he sort of like literally just kicked up and then ran straight to the back. And I was like, Moose is out here sort of like selling his arse off, you know, after this big match, and you just like kicked up like, you know, like you fresh as a daisy. And I thought, that's a bit disrespectful, especially sort of like they were trying to build this up as a massive title match, weren't they? And Moose maybe becoming did you think Aries deserved to go over here, or do you think they should have gone with Moose? Because Moose, he's kind of touch and go, and he's not the best in ring, but he's got a lot of sort of like charisma, and certainly the crowd are really into the sort of like Moose chant and things like that.
Yeah, I think they really could have put the title on Moose. I know in the build up to this show, they were kind of like you know, doing the thing of how, you know, they gave the Moose like the grand championship and stuff like that, like, you know, like not the world title, but they would always give him like the placeholder, you know, championship and stuff like that. And that was kind of the story going into the match. I don't see why they couldn't put the title on Moose. Like, I think at the time, Impact just saw Austin Aries as a bigger star than what he was at the time. Because, you know, he was coming off that WWE run. And like, dude, Austin Aries always had like these weird post-match, like, antics. Like, do you remember, like, of course, it was the pay-per-view after this at Bound for Glory when he straight up walked out on Morrison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the pay-per-view after this. And Martin, do you remember when he lost to Pac at WWE Extreme Rules 2017? And after the match, he like just stared directly into the hard cam and smiled. Like, after the match,
I don't remember that, but that just sounds exactly like him.
Yeah, like he just got tapped out by Pac, and he was sitting on the outside, and like the hard camera came up to him. Like, I guess he was supposed to be like exhausted or like knocked out. Dude was like staring in the hard cam, like smiling. Like, I was like, what the hell is he doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just weird. Like, he always had like these weird post-match like antics and stuff like that. But like that I'm guessing that's Austin Aries for you right there.
Yeah, he seems to have a real bad attitude, which is a sort of a shame because he's had some, you know, he's a decent worker, and obviously he was bumping around quite a lot in this one for a lot of Moose's big moves. Like, he took that, was it the press slam into the crowd and stuff like that? So yeah, he was willing to, you know, do the sort of like big bumps to make Moose look like a bit of a monster. But then it's just the end of the match where he just sort of makes out like, he's as fresh as a daisy and nothing's happened. And like you've just noted about 3 other examples where he's been the dickhead at the end of the match. And then he had that whole thing with Christy Hemme, didn't he, where he was like, you know, rolling her face and things like that. So he just seems like a dude with a real bad attitude. But as far as Moose goes, what do you think? What do you think his level is? Do you think, obviously he can sort of like main event shows like this, but do you think he could have a big run with it? Because he's still in Impact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think he could have a big run as sort of like, you know, a quote unquote sort of like homegrown Impact wrestler?
Yeah, I definitely think Moose could be, you know, a world champion in Impact. Like, but I feel like they've slotted him semi-permanently in that position of underneath the world title picture. Like, even at the current Bound for Glory pay-per-view, like, he's facing EC3 for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Moose is walking around calling himself the TNA World Heavyweight Champion and got the old belt and stuff like that. And it's the exact same thing as what was leading into this match. Like, he was the grand champion, couldn't get to the next level, and now he's in the same kind of position. He's not the Impact World Champion, but he's the TNA Heavyweight Champion. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like little stuff like that. But, you know, I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think Austin Aries' legacy is going to be in professional wrestling? Because I felt like in the early 2000s, like, he was like beloved. Of course, he did some work with ROH and stuff like that. And like, Austin Aries had like some really, he had like a really, really good career. And then like, I felt like towards like the last 3 years or so, like his career, 4 years or so, his career was just like not where it's at. Like, and most of it was kind of his own doing, in a way. So I wanted to ask you, like, for somebody that's kind of seeing his career unfold in a way, like, what do you think his legacy is going to be, and how much do you think the last 5 years or so it really damaged his legacy?
No, I think that's it. I think his attitude and just like the stink on him now, I think that's damaged. I mean, like you said, he did have some good stuff in Ring of Honor, and then his original run in the X Division in TNA had some memorable stuff. But yeah, as far as actually, I had a good match with. It was on the pre-show for WrestleMania the year before, weren't it?
That was really good. Yeah. That was really good.
And so I think he's always been a good worker, but his attitude's obviously clearly sort of like let him down, and I think that'll always be sort of like his legacy. That he had all the tools to be a good wrestler, but his attitude let him down big time.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with what you just said. Do you think that's more so of him feeling like honestly, dude, I feel like he was I feel like he was all good up until he went to WWE, because I feel like he went to WWE expecting to be this main event, you know what I'm saying, top flight talent. And then I remember on I think it was his first night, he got whooped by Baron Corbin. I think that was to start their feud to the Takeover, of course. And then I remember when I think he had a match at Takeover and he won, right?
Yeah.
And he got beat up by Hideo Itami in his first debut, and the crowd just completely forgot about Austin Aries when that happened, and they went crazy for Itami, because I know you remember back then, Itami was hot back then. Like, he was the man.
Obviously they had all them killer matches as Kenta and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and he was like
exactly.
the first sort of like big Japanese name they signed to NXT, weren't they? And he was going to be their big Japanese star, and then obviously they forgot about him once they started looking at Nakamura and people like that.
See, now you got me going on these different tangents, man, because you like bringing up some good points. Like, I would just think, like, not to get too far off, man, but like, dude, Mark, what do you think? What do you think Kenta's ceiling was in WWE had he not had those multiple arm surgery? Because obviously, dude, like, I think it's a no brainer he would have been NXT champion. Like, I think that was just I think that was the plan from the get go. Like, cause I think I think the story is that he was supposed to win the NXT title at the Beast in the East show, but he got hurt, and that they ended up giving that to Finn Balor. So I always like was curious. I was like, man, like, I wonder what his career would have turned out like in WWE had he not getting injured. Because I know a lot of people kind of go the route of like they say, like, you know, WWE could have did more with him. They could have, and they could have, but like, dude kept getting hurt, bro. Like, and it wasn't like some, you know, little rinky dink injuries. Like, he had to get multiple surgeries, like, and it was in the same spot. Like, and like, he just kept getting hurt. And like, after a while, like, I'm pretty sure even if you were running the company yourself, I'm probably pretty sure you'd be like, you know, I don't really know if we should be putting titles on this dude, because like, if we get too far with him, you know, and he get hurt, then we stuck in a rut.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and yeah, the injury certainly played a big part, because obviously his better years were well behind him by the time he started in WWE, and it also didn't help that sort of like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk had stolen all his best stuff into the company. So yeah, I did kind of feel like he was supposed to be that sort of like transition to make WWE bigger in Japan, but I think by that point, sort of like his in ring, I mean, certainly he's had a bit of a renaissance since returning to New Japan, but you're never going to get the Kenta of old because of all the injuries and things.
Dude, he like destroyed himself in his early career, especially when he was in Noah.
Yeah,
like he went hard. Like, and I think that's just another case of like I think we kind of seen that just a couple of times in professional wrestling, like, where guys come in, like you seen that with Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan like legit destroyed himself before he got to WWE. This injury just
all those matches with Nigel and stuff. Yeah,
dog, it just caught up with him. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the same thing with Kenta. Like, by the time he got to WWE, his body was just like done. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you done did so much, you put your body through so much, and like, now you get to this quote unquote, you get to the big stage. Not even quote unquote, it is the big stage. Like, when you get there, it's like your body's just shut down on you. And then now I don't think it kind of helped either that like while he was out, like Nakamura came in, and then like Nakamura just had this like crazy good run in NXT. Like, and like Nakamura was the man in NXT. That's probably one of my favorite title runs ever in WWE goes. Like, Nakamura was the man. But like, I don't think it really helped Kenta at all that Nakamura came in and then just like, you know, but was instantly beloved by the fans and like had like a really good run, and he kind of got like misplaced, and then they kind of just tossed him to 205 Live, and then I think he broke Brian Kendrick's nose on Raw one time with a GTS, and then they banned the move. So yeah, I felt like I think that was just like he had like just bad luck in WWE.
I think it was timing and luck and everything. I think, like you say, and then the injuries and things. And I think a lot of wrestlers, I've got to, and it's also like, I remember listening to an interview with Rocky Romero a few years back, and he was saying like, you go, the idea is that you go touring around the Indies and then maybe do a run in Japan, and then you go to WWE to sort of like, have your retirement package and take it easy. But WWE, you can't take it easy now because, you're expected to, have your working boots on. It's not as easy as it sort of like used to be. So, yeah, but I think especially anyone who knows that style with Kenta and things like that, and especially those matches he had with Marufuji and the like, and then Loki and Ring of Honor in the likes of 2005, you aren't going to have an easy match with Loki, and certainly the fans wouldn't respect a wrestler who was taking it easy in Noah and Ring of Honor. So, yeah, I think, like you said, he went so hard. And it's like you say with Daniel Bryan and Punk and guys like that, they went so hard on the Indies before they got to WWE that, the bodies were probably knackered by the time they got to the main show. But I just wanted to get your overall thoughts on this show. I mean, like you noted earlier, a strong year for wrestling. I mean, we had the 7-star Okada Rio mega match at Dominion in June of 2018, All in September. I mean, WrestleMania that year in New Orleans was pretty good up until the Angle Ronda against Triple H and Stephanie match, and then it was sort of downhill from there. And then we had those NXT takeover matches. We had the likes of Ospreay and Scale, Sakura Genesis, that was a good match as well. And then a ton of NXT matches that were great that year, where Alistair Black against Johnny Gargano against Ciampa and the likes. And and
damn, bro, 2018 was good. Jesus Christ, that you mentioned that 2018 was crazy. That was a good year. Like, I hate when I do this, when I get on these like off topic stuff, but like you mentioned these names, and has there been any word of what happened with Marty Scurll and Ring of Honor? Like, did they let him go, or is he still
No,
with
they said
them?
they were doing. Obviously, there were some really bad accusations against Marty.
Oh
Scurll, some horrifying stuff. But yeah, they said they were going to do an investigation into it, and that was the last we heard. So I guess they just thought
that was like in June, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I guess they're either investigating it or they're just hoping that they can keep him.
People forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
I ain't surprised at all.
Wrestling companies are all the same, aren't they, when it comes to this sort of stuff? They're just, most of them are, not all of them the same. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but...
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. What do you think this show sort of ranks in? I mean, we had some big shows that year. I mean, that's when NXT was on fire, wasn't it? But as far as like shows go, I thought top to bottom, apart from the Su Yung sort of stuff and maybe a couple of other matches, I thought it was a really solid show, and you wouldn't be able to say that even sort of like the TNA shows from years gone by, it was like you'd have one or two really good matches, and then the rest would be sort of like Vince Russo overbooked BS sort of stuff. But then, as far as a bell to bell show, I thought this was a pretty solid one.
Yeah, I would like now that you like kind of, because like you kind of like brought it to my head, like how many great matches there were this year, how many great shows there were this year. Like this 2018 was like a really, really great year for wrestling. Like I know the Wrestle Kingdom that year was fire. I know Takeover, like all the takeovers that year were really good. As far as this show goes, I would definitely, I'm gonna definitely throw it in the top 5 as far as shows goes. Like I think you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Wrestle Kingdom. You can't go wrong with the Takeover Philly. Like I think that, like honestly, bro, I think that Andrade Johnny Gargano match was probably the best match from that year. I genuinely think that was probably the best match from 2018. You got the North American title match. You got Omega and Okada at Dominion. Dude, you had it was some crazy good matches in 2018. Like just professional wrestling as a whole. I'm trying. What was that? Dude, that was the year that PCO faced Walter at Spring Break, wasn't it? 2018.
Oh yeah, it was
in New Orleans.
Yes.
Yeah. That match was crazy. That was like one of the best matches I ever seen. Like that was I swear I think that was Walter's best match. Like that was probably the best Walter match.
I wouldn't go that far,
ever.
but I'd say it was a really enjoyable match. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I remember that because you were talking about Spring Break earlier, and I remember that. I think John and Way were there as well. I think they were sat a couple of rows away from me, Joe Lemon, and my wife. And yeah, I remember we were enjoying that show up until the clusterfuck battle royal, and then it all went off a hill because I think it was like 2:00 in the morning. It just become a test of the wills about who could stay watching this thing.
Yeah, let me correct. I meant to say that was probably the best PCO match I've ever seen.
Yeah,
totally. That was for sure PCO's best match. Not Walter, because I know Walter had a couple bangers. I done seen some great Walter matches, but yeah, like I think that was the best PCO match. But it's just so many great matches that happened in 2018, man. Like that we probably even forgetting about.
I'm just bringing up Meltzer's star ratings for this show, actually. Wow, he gave that Su Yung against Madison Rayne 1.5 stars. Wow. I didn't even think it was that bad. And this Pentagon Jr. against Sami Callihan, 4.25, which I think, is pretty good there. I'd maybe give it a 4.5, but yeah, I think that's pretty accurate from Meltzer there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what was some other... Dude, like, you remember... what's the name? I think, Charlotte versus Asuka at that year's WrestleMania was like that was like a real great match that they had. Dude, I'm trying to think of some other crazy good matches that happened that year, dude. Like it was so many crazy matches that happened that year, man. Like I can't even.
Transitional period as well. Like we noted at the start, this transition from sort of AEW coming in and changing the landscape of the American wrestling scene. You had a lot of guys who were sort of like, either sort of like leaving companies or like maybe making themselves free agents. So you had a lot of wrestlers sort of like wrestling here, there, and everywhere, or turning up in a company for a while and then maybe going somewhere else. And now everyone's more like set down, don't they, in companies?
Yeah, we had what was that? What was that? Tanahashi and Ibushi in the G1 Climax Finals, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah, it was the G1 Climax Finals or something along those lines. It was in the G1 that they had that match. We had wait, was that 2017 or 2018 when we had that match with Omega and Ibushi versus the Bucks was that 2018 at the Strong Style Evolve show in Japan?
Yeah, that was either 2017 or 2018. Yeah.
But I think that match was unbelievable, bro. That match was crazy. But yeah, man, it was so many great matches, man. I think it was when the Young Bucks, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky and the Briscoes had that ladder war match at Final Battle. That match was really good. Dude, 2018, that was crazy. That was a really good year for wrestling. It really was. It is,
because it's only 2 years ago. You get so much good wrestling these days that, you're thinking like, wow, was that really 2 years ago? And so, yeah, it's just been great. Like, even, I mean, obviously this show we're going to be going back decades and going back all many years, but even just going back 2 years, it's good to, like, catch up on, like, where wrestling was and how different it was sort of like in 2018, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, man, 100%.
But just before we head out of here, Andrew, we now have got our own T-shirt. If you were to the Post Wrestling store on the website, you'll now be able to purchase your very own Wrestling Adventure T-shirt if you fancy having mine and Andrew's faces brandishing across your chest. So there you go, our own T-shirt, Andrew.
Where's this? Is on the Post Wrestling website?
Oh yeah, it'll be on there once the show goes up. So
okay,
yeah,
that's crazy, bro. What the hell?
I'm sure my mother will be buying one. Yeah, we've got at least one sale there.
Yeah, it's going to get my aunt something to buy.
Yeah, well, Christmas is coming up. Can't think of a better gift than a Wrestling Adventure T-shirt. If a great stocking filler there. But Andrew, before we head out of here, any plugs you want to get in?
Man, you go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Andrew Thompson Interviews. Yeah, I'm got some stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. I think a lot of people gonna like. I just posted an interview with independent wrestler Eric Royal. I always like doing these profile interviews, like on independent wrestlers. I really think that's like my niche kind of thing. I like doing that a lot. Yeah, you follow me on Twitter at @ADThompson__. And yeah, man, of course, please replay this pod as many times as you can, man. I like doing this. It's been a fun 2 episodes thus far. So yeah, shout out to you, Martin, because it's been a real good time.
No, you're the man, Andrew. All down to you. Obviously, really enjoying doing these shows with you. But of course, all roads lead to postwrestling.com, and myself and Ben will be back on this feed with the new monthly British Wrestling Experience on the 12th of November, and then me and Andrew will be back with episode 3 on the 26th of November. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next month.